তারপরে এখানে আসো real life a lot of devices মানে op amps are actually everywhere. Next with is the concept of the feedback loop. ঠিক আছে, so এই যে feedback loop বসাইলেই we call it closed loop. বুঝছো, open loop with feedback loop যদি না থাকে, so এখানে কি কি আছে? Increase in range of frequencies over which the gain is constant, so basically increased bandwidth, less distortion, greater operating stability. Distortion টাই হচ্ছে noise. Does this make sense to everyone? মানে less chances of failure, less chances of the frequency going all over the place. ঠিক আছে, or amplitude, sorry, amplification factor টা stable একটা ভ্যালুতে বসে থাকে, বুঝছো?
good quality.
Yeah, basically it's more
range and frequency part of the
ওই যে we were just talking about it here. Frequencies over which is going to amplify at a certain value থেকে it drops. ঠিক আছে, it starts to drop. So if you put it in a feedback loop, তাহলে that is over a greater range. মানে it starts to drop at a higher frequency and drops more slowly. So the device can actually work better at higher frequencies.
Okay.
All right, is everyone clear on this? When we have closed loop, you can have two types of amplifiers. You can have inverting amplifiers. ঠিক আছে, closed loop এর মধ্যে, আর আরেকটা হইতেছে the non-inverting amplifier. Okay, so you have inverting amplifier and you have non-inverting amplifier. So let's talk about them একদম short করে, যেহেতু মানুষের মাথা ব্যথা করতেছে. So it's really simple to identify these. কেমনে identify করবা? একটা whenever it's closed loop, দেখো যে একটা আর্ট করা হয়েছে আর একটা আর্ট করা হয় নাই, যেটা আর্ট করা হয় নাই ওইটাই ইনপুট. Do you get this? So এখানে কোনটা ইনপুট? Inverting input. So this is inverting amplifier, right? আর ওইটা আর্ট করা. Now, একটা প্রশ্ন clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we need to talk about this concept called virtual earth. All right, so I need you guys to pay attention to this one because it's really important. Virtual earth is a question they love asking you.
Wait, আগে কি একটা ওয়ার্ড করা ছিল না?
না, ওটা comparator ছিল.
মানে
None of them were
No,
earth.
no, no.
Therefore, if you go back there, তুমি দেখবে যে none of the amplifiers were actually earth. এখানে যেটা করা হয়েছে ওই যে এই ভ্যালু থেকে এখানে রেজিস্ট্যান্স আছে তো, so it's a value away from zero. Do you get it? এখানে যদি রেজিস্ট্যান্স না থাকতো তখন it would be exactly zero. Does that make sense? All right, তারপরে let's move forward. So here we're talking about the inverting amplifier, the non-inverting input, which is earth. So what does that mean? এটার ভ্যালু কত? It's exactly 0 volts. Point number 2 is we know that op amps have extremely high gain, তাই না? So say 10 to the power 5. All right, তারপরে যে জিনিসটা, sometimes we don't want a saturated output. Sometimes we want an amplified output but not saturated. মানে বুঝছো জিনিসটা, smooth curves. For example, if it's sound and everything, it's actually sometimes better. It makes it slightly better quality এরকম, বুঝছো? So এরকম ধরো we want a non-saturated output. তাহলে what do we have to do? What does common sense dictate here? এখানে যদি if this is exactly 0 and if the gain is like really large, তাহলে তোমার এই ইনপুটটা নিয়ে কি করতে হবে? What you have to make it a really really small value, right? 10 power 5. So আমাদের স্যাচুরেশন হয় ধরো হইতেছে 10 volts. আচ্ছা 10 না করি, let's say 12 volts. So এখন কথা হইতেছে যে স্যাচুরেশন at 12 volts যদি হয়, what input can we give which doesn't saturate? বলো তো?
anything
Less than what?
10 to the 5.
10 power minus 5. Are you sure?
No. Voltage difference is ছিল that ভুলে গেলাম.
Near to 0, right?
This should work. 1 2 3 4 5. So actually এটাও না, এখানে কয়টা জিরো আছে? 4টা, আরেকটা জিরো কম দিব।
কেন? তাহলে 10 হবে।
হ্যাঁ, 10 তো স্যাচুরেশন হচ্ছে না তো।
আচ্ছা।
So what can we do? What value can we give here? 0.0001, right? So তাহলে কি 10 power 5 দিয়ে এটা মাল্টিপ্লাই করলে কত আসে? 10 আসে।
Yes.
You get it? You get an output of 10 volts. So this is non-saturated. So basically a pointer, this is point P, right? So like, you know, after all the resistances and everything, the value should be something around this volts, right? So isn't this virtually 0?
Yes.
So that's why this point is called virtual earth. It's not exactly 0, it's virtual earth. Does this make sense for everyone? বুঝো নাই? অনেক small. So এটার যদি answer তোমাকে জিজ্ঞেস করে যে how do you write the answer to this? হ্যাঁ, তখন তোমার 3-4টা পয়েন্ট মেনশন করতে হবে। Number 1 বলতে হবে the non-inverting input is exactly 0 because it's earth. Point number 2 বলতে হবে the op amp has extremely high gain. So to not saturate the output, point 3, the inverting input has to be
very less,
extremely small. Does that make sense? The inverting input has to be extremely small, virtually 0, and hence point P is known as virtual Earth. This is point P right here, right? Point P is known as virtual Earth. Is everyone clear on this? Alright. So exactly এই কথাগুলো এখানে লেখা আছে. In order that the amplifier is not saturated, the two input voltages must almost be the same. The non-inverting input is connected directly to the 0 volt line, so it's exactly 0. Thus, the inverting input must be virtually 0, and for this reason, point P is known as virtual Earth. Alright? Yellow. If you look at these resistors in series, we can actually derive an equation which we can find for the gain of an op-amp. এখানে just একটা জিনিস first basic common sense টা use করে বলো. If this resistance is high, এদিকে কারেন্ট বেশি যাবে না কম যাবে? কম যাবে. So output কি বেশি হবে? Right? The gain is going to be more. The greater the resistance feedback, resistance of the feedback loop, the less the amount which goes back into the feedback loop. So the gain will be more. You get it? And এখানে তুমি কিসের সাথে connect করছো? তুমি connect করছো হইতেছে inverting input. ঠিক আছে? So I'll be skipping through these points. I'll expect you guys to read through this. ঠিক আছে? How do we get this? And eventually it's just two lines of series resistances. So this is the important thing. ঠিক আছে? Voltage gain is minus RF by minus RIN. So basically minus ta keno? Because inverting input. RF, resistance feedback, divided by resistance input. A ratio ta determines the gain of this. So this is no longer an infinite gain. Buchho? When it's closed loop, it is determined by the resistance of the feedback loop and other resistors. So that has a finite value, and this can be found. 8 3 hoite pare, 5 hoite pare, 10 hoite pare, doesn't really matter. Does this make sense to everyone? Alright, so this is it. This is the concept of a inverting amplifier. Is everyone clear on this? Alright, let's move. They're all negative feedback loops. Positive feedback loop nai. Positive feedback loop এখানে দিলে তো আরো পাগল হয়ে যাবে জিনিসটা, যত নয়েজ হবে নয়েজ মাল্টিপ্লাই করে ফেলবে, অ্যামপ্লিফাই করে ফেলবে, সিস্টেম আরো আনস্টেবল হবে. Is that will as a result decrease the frequencies over which it works nicely. তখন কি জিনিসটা খারাপ ভাবে কাজ করবে না? So we don't want that.
So আমরা সবসময় feedback loopটা inverting ওটাতে connect করি.
Yes, it's always connected to the inverting amplifier. Always. Only that gives negative feedback. Which is non-inverting এর সাথে connect করে, you're going to get positive feedback, which makes the system বাড়তে থাকবে. It makes it worse. Clear? Guys? Alright, now let's move on to the next thing, which is the non-inverting amplifier. Alright, so non-inverting amplifier. How do we know that this is non-inverting? Really easy. এখানে দেখো, the inverting input is earth. ঠিক আছে? And the non-inverting input is your input. ঠিক আছে? Very simple. So we in this inverting এই যে দেখো, it's earth across R1. It will have a value. একদম zero হবে না. It will have a value, but it's connected to the earth. While the non-inverting is not at all connected. So this is the easiest way to determine this as a non-inverting input. It depends. মানে তুমি যেটা বেশি দিবা ওইরকম amplify করবে. Sometimes we put in circuits to decrease the amplification, make the signal weaker. তখন গিয়ে you can make say RF less. Usually feedback loop resistance is going to be more and R1 resistance is going to be less. The gain is this equation. দেখো, this is important. Voltage gain is equal to 1 plus RF by Rin. Does this make sense to everyone? So এখানে দেখো, there is no multiplier with minus. কেন? Because the input is to the non-inverting input. এখানে যাই হবে ওইটা positively amplify করা হবে. এই গেল. And again, it's the same concept. Feedback loop resistance যত বেশি হবে তত বেশি gain হবে. Is this clear? Guys? Everyone? Okay. তারপরে we can talk about the possible outputs. We're going to talk about two different outputs. ঠিক আছে? অপ-অ্যাম্পের যে আউটপুটটা আসে ওই আউটপুটটা তোমার দুইটা জিনিস করা যায়, যে দুইটা তোমাদের জানা দরকার. একটা হইতেছে you can use it in the setup of a relay with diodes, আর আরেকটা যেটা করা যায় you can use it with LEDs. So diodeর case is really simple. Sorry, relays with diodes, it's really simple, really straightforward. You can just একটু বুঝতে হবে. দেখো, so this is basically a simple setup for a relay. Everyone knows this, right? One circuit has an electromagnet which gets energized when you pass current through it, and there's a switch which closes when this is energized because this becomes magnetized, right? So এখন কথা হইতেছে যে তোমার যদি op amp এর আউটপুট এখানে যদি if it's positive, say this is our op amp, এটা যদি পজিটিভ হয় তাহলে it works nicely, passes through D1, right? And then energizes this, closes the circuit, right? বুঝছো না?
Yes.
On of it is going to close the second circuit. Output যদি নেগেটিভ হয় তাহলে শেষ, কিছুই হবে না. It will not turn it on, it won't operate, simple as that. Yes. Now the question arises, why did they even add a second diode D2? এখানে you have to understand the concept of back EMF. What happens is, this is an electromagnet, right? So what does that mean? Or নিজের একটা magnetic field generate হবে when you turn it on, right? So yeah, it's like that. when you turn this off, ধরো এটা 0 তে চলে গেল, 0 volts, তখন what happens to the magnetic field around it? It goes away, right? Where you lose the entire magnetic field. So if you lose the entire magnetic field, তখন কি হবে? This will create a back EMF which wants to pull current, a large amount of current in this direction. So তোমার যদি D2 না থাকে, what's going to happen is a large current সে টানবে কোথা থেকে? From the op amp, and a large current from the op amp may damage the op amp. Damageটাকে নষ্ট করবে, মানে op amp কে নষ্ট করে ফেলতে পারে। Diode নষ্ট করবে না, op amp নষ্ট হয়ে যাবে। Do you get it? So to protect the op amp from the back EMF, what is done is আরেকটা separate loop এরকম বসানো হয়েছে, so that এটা যখন back EMF ধরে এটা নেগেটিভ আর এটা পজিটিভ এরকম একটা EMF জেনারেট করে ফেললো, এটা যখন কারেন্ট টানবে, it can be pulled from this route. সে এই রুট থেকে টেনে তারপরে এইদিকে আর এইদিকে পাঠিয়ে দিল। Does this make sense? Diode দরকার ছিল because when this is positive,
ওই দিক দিয়ে যাতে না
তখন এক্স্যাক্টলি যখন রিলে দিয়ে না গিয়ে তখন তো সে এইদিকে চলে যেতে পারতো, তখন তোমার রিলে অনই হতো না। To ensure that the relay operates when the output is positive, you have to put D2 diode here. And to ensure that back EMF is protected, the op amp is protected from back EMF, you must give this route which allows current in this direction. That's why the best answer is to put an op amp here. Does this make sense? Alright, really simple. And the next thing you need to know is how we can also use this in the case of LEDs. It's really simple. What we do is we have basically two diodes. So really simple, if you have an output which is positive, তাহলে কি হবে? তাহলে say D1, say this is red, and say this is green. তাহলে কি হবে? If this is positive, what do you have to say? You have to say the red light turns on and the green light does not. বুঝছো? What if the output is negative? তখন the green light turns on and the red light does not. এই দুইটা মেনশন করতে হবে। You have to mention which one is off and which one is on. কেন? Because you might not really know যে একটা on বলে দিলে গ্রিনটা on, but you don't know if redটা on হবে না off হবে. Maybe you don't understand the concept. How is this even possible here? It's not possible. Even the সম্ভবই না, you'll have to have current flow in opposite directions, which isn't even allowable in this case. Is this clear? Alright, so this is what you need to know about diodes and how they operate. And then the last part of the syllabus, যেটা আমরা দেখছিলাম, যে you have to understand calibration digital or analog meters. This is basically the write-up from here, ঠিক আছে? Where basically LEDs can be used to represent a positive or negative output. Usually we use it with comparators, ঠিক আছে? Also we can use it with relays, comparators with relays, right? So তখন কি ওই আউটপুটটা doesn't matter if the output is linear or non-linear, ঠিক আছে? ওই জিনিসটা। So এখানে I would suggest you just read through this for once. তারপর you're going to get a value. Is this clear to everyone? So yes, that's it. That's the end of op amps and the entire thing of electronics. Is everyone clear on this? Any questions, guys? All right, then we're done.
Looking at my